Okay, let's get started. This is an information session to discuss the fishing and farming program launched by the Access Accelerator in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture. The program is a program designed to provide access to capital to assist with promoting agricultural productivity and environmental sustainability. There's a $5 million allocation to this program, which is a combination of grant money, debt, and equity for the program. The goals of the program is to assist the Bahamas in becoming more sustainable as it relates to food security, to assist with economic recovery, helping persons who may be in the fishing and farming industry, as well as creating employment, and to help facilitate better business management and to encourage better business practices. To be eligible for the program, you can be either a startup or an existing business. The application process is facilitated through the Access Accelerator. It must be majority Bahamian-owned, either 51% Bahamian-owned or greater. You must have a valid business license. In the event of a startup who may not have a valid business license, they have to show evidence of where they would have made application for that business license. Similarly, as it is in the fishing or agricultural sectors, you have to provide evidence of having the appropriate licenses and permits to operate in those areas. And any prior funding that you'd have gotten through the Access Accelerator program combined with this program cannot exceed the maximum allowable funding. And to give you an example of that, if the maximum allowable grant funding in this program is $50,000, if you would have already received a $5,000 standalone grant from the SBDC, Access Accelerator, your application in this program would only qualify you to achieve another $45,000. You wouldn't be able to maximize the $55,000 grant program. We will also be expecting you to provide us some economic impact data as it relates to how the funding that you would receive from this program would have helped your business to sustain or grow itself over the next 3 years. So the two eligible enterprises that we're looking at is farming, and we cover a number of areas there: forestry, horticulture, the use of land for the purpose of husbandry, breeding of livestock, poultry, or bees, the cultivation or processing of fruit, vegetables, and the establishment of grasslands. And then in the fishing industry, fishing for any marine resource for the purpose of subsequent sale or processing. As indicated before, you would need to have either a farmer's license or a fishing license to participate in the program. And in the event that you don't currently have those things, you would have to make application for them. So for example, in the fishing area, we know that for you to get a fishing license, you have to have a vessel. So you would submit your application to purchase a vessel, which you can get a conditional approval for, but the funds won't be dispersed until we would have gone through that licensing process with the Ministry of Agriculture. So the funding options is up to $50,000 in grant funding, i.e. money that would not have to be repaid. And then you can go up to $500,000 in a combination of grant funding, debt, or equity funding. So if I needed $200,000, I can get $50,000 in grant, and I can get the other $150,000 in debt or equity or combination thereof. What's going to be required? The required documents are proof of citizenship, so either your passport or voter's card, valid business license, or as we said, an indication that you've already started the business license process. Farm registration or fishing vessel license, and again, if it's not available, this must be obtained before you can get disbursements. You must give us information on the use of funds. And so it's not adequate to say I need $50,000 to develop my enterprise. You need to tell us how those funds are going to be used, and that should be tied in with the invoices that you're going to provide as well. There is a small component of this that allows for working capital, and that would have to be deducted from the total amount of the funding. But I think I know the maximum on that is 10% of the requisite funding. Whatever you're asking for can only represent 10% of that funding. It's important for you, as you submit your invoice or invoices, to also provide the payment instructions as to how the vendors will be paid. This program pays directly to vendors, not to end users. And the more information you can provide up front, it makes your application that much easier to be processed. So you shouldn't have us chasing behind you to find how do we pay this vendor. Everything should be provided up front.
Sorry, Vincent, do you want to just insert in there in terms of invoices for them to provide an invoice for working capital as well?
Yes, it would be good. If you could provide an invoice for your working capital with a explanation of how you propose to use that working capital. An executive summary on the business is going to be required. If it's over the $50,000 grant, it's going to require a full business plan. And so the process that we go through is we evaluate the various applications in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture. Once you're registered, it's going to require you to go through an educational seminar, and the seminars depend on whether you're agriculture or fisheries. It's a different seminar, but it's maximum of about, if I remember correctly, it's about 8 hours of self-paced seminars that you go through, and you'll get a certificate. You must do the seminars. If you don't complete the seminars, your application will not be considered completed and will not be put forward as a part of the regular adjudication process. And we'd already touched on the invoice/quotes and wire instructions for payments. So the process: apply. You go to our website, accessaccelerated.org. Look under funding. You will see fishing and farming program. It's a step-through process where you put in the relevant information, upload the relevant documents, and then press submit. Once it's submitted, you will get a link to go through the educational session by email. You complete the educational sessions and it'll give you a certificate. We started processing applications for this grant the end of November, so it has been ongoing and it continues to be ongoing, bearing in mind that it's a base. Again, it was $5 million allocated for it. So when the funds are exhausted, obviously then the approvals process will cease unless other funds become available. Disbursements, as stated previously, will be made directly to vendors, to their bank accounts. So that's why the wire transfer information is so important. And we're asking persons afterwards to provide us with photos of the items that would have been purchased. And again, within 6 months of final disbursement, our post-funding team will contact the entrepreneurs to collect economic impact data. Very important, the types of things that can be purchased. Disbursements will be permitted for the following items only: farm building, including shade houses, greenhouses, storage facility, animal housing, tunnel house, night folds, etc. Agricultural equipment, including irrigation equipment, pumps, generators, tractors, trailers, grading systems, sprayers, cultivating equipment, hydroponic and aquaponic systems. Supplies that you need to go into your business: seeds, seedlings, plants, herbicides, fungicides, etc. Food and agri-processing supplies and equipment, the digging of wells, solar alternative energy equipment, purchase of fishing vessels, trailers, outboards, and diesel engines, refrigerated trucks. This is important. The trucks have to be, the trucks that are accepted under this program are refrigerated trucks, not general trucks that can be used for anything other than transporting of refrigerated goods. Fishing equipment such as freezers, generators, generator equipment, and aquaculture development. Input supplies, fishing gear, ports, traps, material to construct the same. Use of information technology, radios, computers, software. I think GPSs are included in that as well. Insurance coverage on your vessels or equipment. And again, we talk about working capital, which can be paid up to a percentage of the funding requests. So to give you an example of that, if your funding request is $8,000, the maximum working capital you would be able to get is $1,600, and that's based on the amount of funds that you're asking, whether it's a 20%, 15%, or 10% working capital available to you. That is the basis of the presentation. I know some of you may, I see you've already started to put questions in the group. And so let's try and see what needs to be addressed with the questions. Garnell, anything that I missed that we need to address before we go into the questions? Okay. One of the questions I see is, if an application has been submitted, there is a requirement to go through the training provided. Does your application go on hold until the training has been done? Your application will not be considered for adjudication until the training is done. So, for example, when we indicated that the first adjudication process would have started November 30th, if persons would not have completed the training by November 30th, their application was not considered in that tranche. If they went after November 30th and completed the training, then it can be considered in the next tranche. If my funding requirement overflows by $100, will I be pushed to the next category? Two important things. One, if your funding is over the $50,000 by the $100, etc., something I would like to say that that's not that significant. We'll then have that conversation with you about what would you like to remove from your request. The other thing that we want you to be aware of too, that persons may have been overlooking. First of all of your payments, especially if they're international payments, has a price attached to transferring funds to your suppliers, wire transfers, etc. That's a cost that has to be considered as a part of your application. And the other thing is, if you're purchasing things outside of the country, the proper process to get them in terms of shipping, customs duties, if applicable, because many of you would be in a category where you can apply for exemptions, but you'd still be required to pay the VAT on broker fees. And so that needs to be factored into your equation as well. So if you're purchasing things out of the country, we would recommend that you probably get a broker to look at what it would take to bring that in and have that broker quote uploaded as a part of your cost of your financial request. Next question, if there's an exemption on the farming items that we will have to bring in, is there an exemption? Persons in the industry would know what exemptions exist that they can apply for, but all exemptions that are applicable will be honored.
So, so the way that works is, if you have to be a registered farmer, if you're a registered farmer, then you are eligible for exemption for your equipment, and there's a whole list of items that you are exempted for under the Tariff Act. The Department of Agriculture on Gladstone Road, once you're registered, you go to them and you say, this is what I'm bringing in. They then write the Ministry of Finance for you in order to get the waiver, the exemption. And then the Ministry of Finance writes them back, and then you collect your exemption from them. And the same is done with the Department of Marine Resources for those items under the Fishing Act that are exempted.
Okay, the next question was about the trucks. What I had said previously is that the only trucks that are given consideration under this program are refrigerated trucks, not general trucks that can be used for transportation for anything other than refrigerated items. If application and training has been completed before November 30th, when will someone be contacted? Applications completed before November 30th are currently being adjudicated, and so you should have feedback within the next week, I would say. I have submitted an application but received no email for training. I've submitted all the documents requested. How can I find out more information regarding my application? What I would suggest is that you send an email into our help desk, which is helpdesk@spdcbahamas.com with the relevant information. That logs a ticket that we will then investigate and provide a response to, and give you guidance as to what's the next steps. Why can I not access my account to update it with requirements? The intent is that, and this is an important point, the intent is that you should have all of your documents available to you to upload as you complete the process. There is an option that allows you to do save, and what save does, it allows you to, the system sends you a link to your email where you can get back in and continually update your application during the process. But once you select submit, that means you've completed everything and you've submitted your application, and that application is now locked for you to update anything additional. So if there's anything that is missing, that would have to be looked at during the adjudication process, and left up to the adjudication process to reach out to you for any additional information.
But Vincent, I think it's important to mention in terms of amounts. So in order to meet the September 30th deadline, some people may have just submitted a few invoices and not the complete package. Whatever that was when you hit submit it, that is the amount that you are going to be considered for. If you go back and you want to add something else to that, or you want to amend your application, then you have to go in the queue. So then whatever additions you make, if you make additions today, February 4th, then you're in the queue for February 4th.
Correct. Okay. I encountered a vendor earlier today that doesn't accept wire transfers. They are the best at pricing, but this is a hurdle. What other options for remittance is there? There is no other options. We are only working with wire transfers, whether it's local or international. Bear in mind that we have to manage the disbursement process, and this is the most practical way for us to address it. So my recommendation to you would be to look for another vendor who sells the same product and does accept wire transfers. Okay, so just to clarify, applications must have invoices and wire instructions in order to be approved. Also, yes. When completing the training, I noticed that there's nothing to state completed. How will I prove the training is completed? Having gone through the process myself, if I remember correctly, once you do go through the training, it does indicate that you would have completed it, and I think it also gives you a certificate. But again, if there's a query about that, please send an email into the help desk so that we can address that for you specifically. Can funding for this program be combined with microloan or other grant or guarantee programs? As stated, if you are applying for a $50,000 grant for this program and you would have received approval for a grant from another program, say $5,000 grant program, then that amount of grant that you're available for in this program is diminished by the amount that you would have received approval for previously. If you haven't received approval of any of the other programs, then, and this is the way the programs work with each other. So if you're applying for the standalone grant and this at the same time, we're aware that you're in both programs. And so if you're approved in one, it would automatically impact your availability to get funds in the other. How would you know if your application is still valid if you finish the studies later? I assume when you mean later is that you completed loading everything, you got the link to the training, but you didn't do it at that time and you choose to do it at a later time. Again, we will check the status of all applicants when we're going through the various adjudication process. But I think the thing that you need to be very mindful of is that this is not an open-ended budget. There's a certain amount of funds available. We're going through the adjudication process until the funds are exhausted. So it's in everybody's best interest to sit down, take the time, gather all of your information, upload everything in a complete process, go through the training, and ensure that your application is in and closed so that it can be given consideration. We can't guarantee you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Vincent, if I could interject, once the date that you completed the training is when your application is considered complete.
Yes. Again, that person, back to the payment, I'm sorry, no PayPal, no bank draft, it's only wire transfer, sorry. How does someone know what stage the application is at, pending, reviewed, approved, etc., and why? As I indicated, the persons who made the November 30th cutoff are currently going through an adjudication process now, and so persons will be notified about whether or not they're approved or denied, or whether there's any matters that need to be addressed with their application within the next week or so. Okay, I think this may be one for you, Garnell. You said they have to go to Glaston Road. What if we live in the family island? I guess that's about
Yeah, it will depend on the family island that you live on. And I could tell you the proper way is to use the office that's there. And if the ministry does not have an office there, then you should go to the island administrator. That's the proper way. The improper way is to send everything in, email everything in right here to the director, Charmaine Price, CHARMAINE Price at bahamas.gov.bs, and submit everything electronically, and then make arrangements with them to submit whatever you need physically. But I tend to go straight to the source, because I do realize in the family islands that because you have to go through so many different links and steps, it holds everything up. So I'm going to tell you, go straight to the source, because we just don't have the time for that. It's February 28th is the deadline.
Okay, the email that they asked about again, I assume you're talking about our help desk. So it's helpdesk@spdcbahamas.com. So farmers are not able to get trucks even if in business name. No, it's only refrigerated trucks that are given consideration under this particular program. If you originally applied for $50,000 and realized that you can apply for more grant assistance, what steps can be taken? I'm not sure I understand that, Ms. Kemp, because the maximum grant under this program is $50,000. Anything over $50,000 would then have to go through a different adjudication process, because that now brings into play either a loan or equity component. What happens if you don't actually own a farm, but you have been granted permission to use a section of a farm?
So it will have to be a formal relationship, not given permission. It'll have to be a lease relationship.
Okay. Why only refrigerated vehicles? Most of my work requires transporting livestock and tools from job to job. Can it be considered on a case-by-case basis?
Mr. Timothy, you are free to buy yourself a truck, and you can apply for a trailer with us, but we cannot afford to buy trucks because every single farm will need a truck. We cannot afford it. We just can't afford it. The money will not allow it.
My application got approved. How will I know when I will receive the equipment bought? If your application is approved and funds are wired to your vendors, as information is sent out to your vendors with the wire confirmation information, that's also sent to you, because obviously you're going to be the one managing the relationship with getting the items shipped in. We're not going to manage that process for you. So once you're approved and you're notified you're approved, we also keep you abreast of when payments are made so that you can work with your vendors to get your goods and services bought in to deal with. I email my farmer's license because I cannot update it. I assume when you say update, you mean you cannot upload it. I'm not sure why you would not have been able to upload it. I trust that when you did email it in, you emailed it into the help desk, because I'm not sure who you would have emailed it to. Okay, I received an email from Access Accelerator on 20th of January stating your application was received and will be reviewed in the adjudication meeting by the investment. Will I get an answer before the end of February 2021? Yes, you will. How can you rewatch the training, please? When you say rewatch, did you miss something or you wanted to go over it again? That one, I'm not sure. But send an email to the help desk. Just so you know, when you send an email to our help desk, it opens a ticket, and that ticket gets logged and tracked until it's closed. So once you send that and it opens that ticket, you'll get a number that you can track, and we manage the process, and somebody will respond to you until that ticket gets closed. Once all requirements for documentation and training have been met within the specified time frame, how long does the distribution process take? Again, it's application, adjudication, disbursement. Obviously, there's quite a number of applicants to this program, and so the disbursement process, once you're approved, does take some time, but you will be kept in the loop of everything that's going on. And any payments made to your vendors once you're approved, you will be kept informed of. What if I don't receive an email stating your application received? Again, if you know you completed the application process, send an email in to the help desk so that they can verify that your application is in and complete. Do fishermen who sell wholesale directly to fish houses require a business license?
Yes. Anybody in business in Bahamas has a business license.
Absolutely. So in addition to having your commercial fishing license, yes, you still need to have a business license. Okay. Repeat, please, where and how to start training. Once you've completed the application process, you should have received an email taking you to the link to where the training started. Please check your junk and spam to ensure that the email would not have gone there. If you know you completed an application and you do not recall seeing that email, send an email into the help desk so that they can respond to you. Is there a separate process for land allocation? I'm not sure what you mean by land allocation. Does that mean you need land in order to farm on?
So if you need land, you can go on the ministry's website, which is at bahamas.gov.bs/agriculture-marine. If you go in the business tab, there is a form there for the request of agricultural farmland. Now, the ministry has ample agricultural crown land in Andros, in Grand Bahama, and in Abaco, and very limited crown land in New Providence. But BAIC has agricultural crown land in New Providence. So if you wanted to lease land, you could apply to BAIC and the ministry at the same time.
Okay, if an application was denied, will an explanation be given? A lot of times, time and energy went into the application. Will a reason be given for the denial? Again, bearing in mind the amount of applicants we have and resources we have to work with, we do not have the resources to sit down and give each and every person a specific reason for the denial of their application. But we will give a letter that states a number of reasons why your application may have been denied. And that's why I say it's important to put the time and effort up front to make sure upload all of your invoices, upload all of your wire transfer information for your vendors, etc., and to make sure that what you're asking for is in compliance with what is being offered for the program. If I included a truck to pull my trailer and boat as part of funding requests, will I be allowed to change to a refrigerated truck? What would have more than likely happen is your truck would have been removed from your request in terms of the dollar value.
And Vincent, I'm glad that person asked that question because I wanted to say, and don't request a refrigerated truck if what you are doing doesn't call for a refrigerated
I was just going to say, it has to meet the requirements of the business.
Yeah.
What about those who would have applied after November? After November, we'll go through another adjudication process and continue to do so until the exhaustion of the funds. Suppose I already own a truck trailer, will assistance be given to secure a reefer? Garnell, I don't know how you want to address that one.
Suppose I already own a truck or trailer, will assistance be given to secure a reefer? A reefer isn't in the
it's not in.
Yeah. When you say reefer, I assume you mean the refrigerated trailer, but that's not in the permitted disbursements. The activities that are permitted for disbursement. Sorry.
What is the process to obtain a farmer's license?
So the first thing would be to fill out the application, which is also online at bahamas.gov.bs/agricultural marine. You can also visit our office on Gladstone Road, the Department of Agriculture. You will fill out the form. You will set an appointment for an inspection of your farm. They will come out and interview you, inspect your farm, and then say yay or nay.
Okay. What happens if you choose to change the items you wish to purchase, i.e. make changes to the code when you initially sent during the application? Again, if the application has already been submitted, that is what your matter will be adjudicated on. And once approved, that's what you're going to be approved for. Now, I guess the question then becomes, is there any leeway to make adjustments after that? I can tell you that those adjustments will not be considered, especially if it takes the amount that you were approved for above.
But Vincent, we would recognizing, especially on the fishing side, and those persons who are buying secondhand vessels, which would be everybody. Yes. Those vessels may no longer be available. So in that case, we're looking at amounts then.
Yes.
And you'll be allowed to change the vendor, but you'll have to stay within the amount that was approved. Is that correct?
Yeah. And it's also a good time to talk about the age of the vessels.
Sure. So any vessel that's over 21 years, and or that's been inoperable for more than 5 years, and or had any significant damage, so it's been grounded, will require a marine survey.
Okay, I was in the process of completing the training seminar, but at the end of the year, I couldn't seem to complete it. Do I need to wait until I have new licenses and certificate before I can complete the seminar? No, we realize that there's a renewal process for license and certificates, and if your licenses and certificates were valid to last year, they would be given consideration. Follow-up question is, will you consult with the farmer before sending funds directly to vendor? That's a good question because
That is a good question.
because
Vincent, because I know some people, especially in Grand Bahama, they've had that problem where they've been approved and the money was sent. For whatever reason, they might have not been notified, or they might have changed. Because especially when you're ordering poultry, or when you're ordering livestock, things could change on the ground, and you may need to change your vendor.
here would be my recommendation to you. As soon as you get indication that you've been approved, I would suggest you send communications right back to us about having a consultation before monies are sent to the vendor. Because
excellent strategy.
Yeah, we don't have the resources, as I said, to pick up the phone and speak with each and every person that's been approved and make sure that everything is in order. So that's why we want you to do a lot of that up front. But once you're approved, if there's something that would have changed with your application that needs to be addressed, once you get confirmation that you've been approved, please make sure that you contact us immediately before funds are sent. Are wire transfer quotes permissible from local vendors? Absolutely. We encourage local vendors purchases. What about Crown land for farming? I think that was already addressed. Well, you told them what was available as relates to from the Ministry of Agriculture and what's available from BAIC. Crown land comes under the purview of the Prime Minister, and it's a completely different process from my understanding.
Right, so there's agricultural crown land, and then there's just crown land. So crown land itself comes under under OPM, Office of the Prime Minister. Sorry.
Right, and so I think that answered the next questions, which said to repeat the name of the government agency for crown land. Okay. Excellent information with the BAIC leasing of land in Nassau. We'll look into that ASAP. Applied for crown land, but still nothing available. Okay, noted. What if you already applied for agricultural crown land 2 years ago, but haven't heard anything back?
Who is this? Who said that? Let me see that person.
Prentasia Johnson.
So when you say you haven't heard anything back, was there an acknowledgement of your application? Did you have you completed the interview processes yet?
And was it Ministry of Agriculture or BAIC?
Right. And yeah, was it agriculture or BAIC? Did you get an acknowledgement? That's the first thing. So Ms. Donnelly Bowe is in charge of the land unit. So Donnelly Bowe at bahamas.gov.bs. I would send an email to her. I would also copy in the PS, which is Joel Lewis, JOELLEWIS at bahamas.gov.bs, stating just what you said. I'm hoping that you would have kept a copy of your application, because I say it all the time. Whenever you submit anything to a government organization, email it in first so that there's a digital record, and then drop off the originals. Once you find out the name of the person, all of our email addresses are first name, last name, and then at bahamas.gov.bs. So whoever it is that you're submitting it to, submit it digitally first. So send a follow-up email to them saying what the date of your application was, where, and give as much details as possible. And if you had kept a copy of it, then I would send them a copy as well, and ask for a status.
And what about applying for land if you plan on doing a hydroponic system plus livestock in one of those family islands not mentioned?
So if it's in a family island that I didn't own, and also BAIC has land in Eleuthera. BAIC has agricultural land in Eleuthera. So if it's not Eleuthera, Andros, Abaco, or Grand Bahama, then you would have to go through Lands and Surveys and fill out the application there, and then they process it and send it on to the office of the Prime Minister. Because even though you'll be using it for agriculture, it will still be Crown land.
What about leasing space in the ocean for regenerative ocean farming? Can this be done via the same channels as leasing land? That's a good one, Mrs. Swan.
That's a good question. I don't know that we could lease the ocean. I know that there are some projects that people send in where they want to they want to set up a area, a coastal area, but not the sea itself. But you have to put together a proposal and send it into the Department of Marine Resources, and I would send it to Greg Bethel, he's director, GREGBETHEL, and copy the PS, Joe Lewis at bahamas.gov.bs. For those types of projects that require special arrangements, the business proposal is a very lengthy one where there are specific things that are looked for, the environmental impact, the economic impact, your financial viability, sustainability. So there, if you're in compliance with any of the sustainable development goals, etc. So there's a list though of all the factors that would be considered for that. And if you email in, and you could email me, Garnell Pelicanos at bahamas.gov.bs, I'll provide you a list of everything that your business plan for those types of arrangements will need to contain.
Okay, will registration and business license submitted with application in 2020 be valid in 2021? As I indicated, yes, we realize that you have to go through a renewal process. So that would not deter your application on your request from being given
considered,
approval.
Right, and considered and approved, but it'll be a condition of disbursement for you to get the updated one before the funds are dispersed.
I have a startup dry produce business. Some of the produce is not locally grown. Will there be a consideration to receive assistance to international suppliers? Are you indicating that you want to buy produce internationally to bring in and then resell? Is that the nature of it? I just want to make sure we understand what you're asking for there. And the one question that I would have, as you probably respond to that, is, are you just selling it, or you're doing something with it to add value to sell it locally? Do you allow fishermen to purchase a truck if needed? Again, it's only if it's a refrigerated truck. Just to be sure, do I need both a fishing license and a business license? Yes. I accidentally applied under the $50,000 program and application was denied. I was later advised to apply to the farming and fishing, or the $5,000 program. Using the farming and fishing program, I reapplied and completed the agricultural training in January. Okay, then your application should be in and would get given consideration possibly in the next tranche. After reviewing the application, if a client is missing a document because of oversight, will the applicant be informed? Yes, but remember now, the application is based, and the consideration is based on what you would have requested in terms of dollar value. So if you decided you wanted to do something that required you to get $20,000 worth of items, however, you only submitted $15,000 worth of invoices, then your application is being given consideration based on the $15,000, not on the 20. I applied over 10 years for Crown land and heard nothing back. No interview, not even an approved, nothing. Okay.
I was just talking to that person. If it's agricultural Crown land, then the same thing. send a query to Donnelly Bow at bahamas.gov.bs and copy to Joel Lewis at bahamas.gov.bs.
To request
If
land
it's,
for farming in
yeah, if it's just Crown land, then that's under lands and surveys.
Okay, to request land for farming in North Andros, what is the process? Again, I think agriculture and BAIC has access to farmland in North Andros.
Yeah, so fill out the form and submit it.
Can your vessel be new or must it be used if your application is approved? My only thing with the new is, can you afford it to be new based on the amount of monies that we're talking about? But new or used, it's just a matter of being able to fall into the appropriate category to be funded. How would I know if I'm still up for consideration? Study conflicted with Christmas work, and I had issues with opening some of the classes. Finally completed it all. Okay, so if you've completed it all, like I said, chances are it's very likely that it will be considered in the next tranche. When will the second adjudication period end? We're just closing up the first. So we're going to see where we are after we finish the first period, and then determine it's going to be running, because once we finish the first, we're going to go straight into the second adjudication process. I'm still waiting for lands and surveys 10 years later. Okay.
Me too.
Who is the BAIC contact in North Andros, sorry, Jesus. Yeah, BAIC has an office in North Andros.
Yes.
Contact person there is Mr. Alfie Stubbs. Seabed leases have to go through Port Authority and lands and surveys for ocean farming. Somebody gave that input to Mr. Swan. Ms. Garner, can you repeat the name and email address, please? Maybe you should type it in the chat so that everybody can see it.
Sure.
Judith, could you also put in the chat the email address for the help desk as well? Okay, hi Ganel. In Andros, we pay customs separately and the local broker separately. Kindly advise. You may pay them separately, but we need to know what that amount is going to be. And so you can have the broker do up an invoice for a quote that reflects what the customs payments would be, and then a quote that reflects what their payments would be. But once we know what the payments are going to be and how they're going to be applied.
They had asked about the how are they going to wire funds to customs?
That's a process that we've been working through, but I know in the past we've done things directly by paying the broker. And so even though you're saying you're paying the broker separately, for a number of persons, what we've done in our regular program is we've made the funds payable to the broker, and then the broker take their fees as well as pay the customs fees on behalf of the client.
Right.
Is there a list of approved marine surveyors that SPDC requires? And if you can provide, that's more a Ministry of Agriculture. In terms of, are we talking about the boat assessment? Is that it?
Right. So they just need to be licensed. So we don't have a list. They just need to be properly licensed. So just they would attach their license to the back, well, as a part of the survey document.
Okay. And that's the last of the questions, and we're currently at 5:28, and this was scheduled for an hour. So this is your last opportunity to get a question in.
With my phone, nothing in the chats. No.
Let's see, chats. I think can someone wanting to operate a landscaping garden nursery also qualify for this grant? Okay, there are a couple of things in the chat. Okay, let me see what we have here. I think some of the persons would have also gone over and put the same questions. Status of your application. Do you have to apply separately for duty concessions on a tractor? Or if we do, who do we apply to? I think that was already addressed in terms of who to apply to. Where is your office located or number to call? I'm not sure which office you're talking about. If it's the SBDC, we're not entertaining in-person visitations. We're doing everything electronically, and that's why I say your best bet is to use the help desk, and then you'll get a log ticket, and that will be addressed. Good afternoon from the coconut factory. We produce coconut oils from Bahamas coconuts. It's used in hydroponic. Yeah, okay. If anyone needs to purchase, okay, a little bit of advertising going on there. I've applied for my business license renewal, but I've not been issued a new one yet. Do I send my old one? Yes, you do. Can applicants make application for both farming and fishing? Carnell?
You could, but you're only getting one. Whatever is the best one.
Okay, this person is saying that it's a lifesaver. I'll be glad to hear that. Can you post the email addresses? That's being put in for you now. Application, where can I get the application? It's all done online, accessaccelerated.org under funding and farming and fishing grant. Many fishing guides throughout the Bahamas needs assistance. This program, Mrs. Prescott Smith, does not apply to fishing guides. It's persons who are producing, i.e. fishing and or farming to produce a product. Not guides would fall more under the tourism purview. Jonathan Higgs, if you haven't done the training, you need to go back in and do it to be considered. What else? As a farmer with an existing farm and others, I applied for funds to extend my farm, but I was rejected. What do I do now? I did the training and I also sent in my quotes. What did I do wrong with to help me understand, please? Again, I'm not sure, Mr. Marshall. We're gonna have to look at that one on an individual basis and see what the issue
I
is.
don't think we sent out any.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where he would have gotten
That did happen though, Winston. When
yeah, and if I
the
remember
standard
correctly,
one
though,
grants, right, rejection letters were sent out. Some people here got rejection letters as well. So I just told them to ignore those because I know that we hadn't even started this process yet.
yeah, we have not sent out any approval or rejection letters from the farm and fishing program as yet. So if you did get a rejection letter, it would not have been applicable to this program. What are the size vessels eligibility? I don't know if there's a size limitation or eligibility.
There's a money limitation.
It's a money limitation, right? Who is the BAIC contact in Freeport? That one, I'm not sure.
The BAIC has a whole office.
Oh, they sure do.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Right on Sunrise, across from Boulevard gas station, but it's not directly across, but across
Yeah,
from Boulevard gas station.
yeah. It's not on the main road. You have to go off and come around the back to enter.
Right.
If you don't get a reply from an open ticket in a few days, is it okay to open a new one until you get a response? You can, but you confuse the system. I can tell you the tickets are tracked. They're tracked for how long they've been open. There's also an escalation process as well, so it will get addressed. You're not being ignored. I can assure you that. What year does the refrigerated truck should be? Again, the truck would fall under whatever purview we have. If you're bringing it into the country, it has to be 10 years or less, if I remember correctly.
Right.
I don't think there's a differentiation for refrigerated versus regular vehicle. Just to confirm, a license is necessary in order to be approved. To be approved, it's not necessary, but you will need to have the license before funds are dispersed. Even though I applied in December and updated invoices in January, does my application now considered a January application? When did you complete the training? Because the training is what triggers us that you have completed your application process. So if you completed your training with invoices already in there in December, those are the ones that would have been given consideration.
I want to be clear too, for vessels. So you have to register your vessel with the port department, and then you have to license your get your license from the Department of Marine Resources, which is two different things. So the port department does an inspection of the vessel, make sure you have sufficient, make sure there's no damage, make sure your bilge pump working, make sure you have sufficient life vest on it, etc. So you register with the port department, and then for the commercial fishers, which everybody on here would be a commercial fisher, and then you come to Department of Marine Resources. In every case, everybody needs to verify your ownership. So, and you may run into a problem if you are buying a secondhand vessel that was never registered here. So if you're buying it from someone and they never bothered to register their vessel, you might run into a problem. So I would check that out too before I make that exchange with someone, before you pay them, and then it's no good to you because you can't get it registered.
Okay, what's this? How do I know about the status of your application? As we said, we're going through the adjudication processes now. We're still doing what would have been in the system from November 30th. And so we're going to have rolling adjudications until we get to the end of this process. So once your application is in, if you want to just confirm that everything is in, again, send an email to the help desk and they'll confirm that your application is in and in the process of being adjudication. What about insurance for farmers? I'm not sure what you mean by insurance for farmers. But again, let's put that, if you want to explain that a bit more, but put it in the questions, not in the chat, please. Can you repeat the registration requirements again, please?
So, Mr. Russell, I think you are in Freeport, is that correct? We do have an office in Grand Bahama, and you can go and see Ladina Pelicanos at our Department of Agriculture and Marine Resources, and she will explain the entire process for you. Grand Bahama is a little different in terms of the port registration and then the Department of Marine Resources registration.
Did we give Gailey an email address for the Port Authority and Lands and Survey? Because he's asking for that.
Which one now?
He said, thank you for the information about the ocean farming. Is there an email address in particular for Port Authority and Lands and Survey?
No, but if you go on bahamas.gov.bs and you check each ministry, will have contact information. They'll have a info email address.
Do you support a crab sanctuary?
Me? I don't know.
Mr. Hepburn,
that's not my favorite.
I'm not sure about that one, Mr. Hepburn. Yeah. Should the Marine Survey have maximum time year limits? I think we addressed that the vessel had to be under 21. Well, if it's under 20, if it's over 21 years old, that's when the Marine Survey is required, correct?
Right, 21 and older. So yeah. 20 or less is fine. Now, bear in mind, marine surveys are not that expensive. They go from $14 to $18 per foot, and you will be allowed to use the funds for that purpose. I would get it. It's like buying a house and not getting it appraised. Like I would just get it. It will not hurt. It'll cost you maybe $200-300 depending on the size. But I would get it. I would err on the side of caution and get it.
What are the aspects of a strong application being considered for approval? I guess the first thing is to make sure that the application is complete and has all of the relevant information. That's the first step. And then back to Mr. Hepburn again. Good afternoon. Would the building of a
Can
land?
I comment on that, Andrew, Francis? Yeah. So sometimes I feel as if people think that we don't actually read the stuff, because some of the things that are submitted, like Blind Blake could see that someone trying to pull a fast one. So for your application to be a strong one, you have to have an idea and a plan of how you are going to operate this business. You would have to have done some research, and you would have to show that you took the time to review everything about the industry and what it's going to take for you to succeed. But we've had some people who, I mean, clearly, they submitted for an engine, but they don't have a boat, like stuff like that, which gets tossed immediately, or they want to do farming, but they do not have any land. They don't have a lease for any land. But you want me you want us to buy you 10,000 ticks, and you have no place to put them. So they're just some common sense things, So to take the time, especially with your executive summary, to really go through it and put a lot of thought in it, and then your invoices. So definitely vendors that are established businesses would be more credible than you coming and saying, I'm buying this from John Doe or I'm buying this from John Brown. And then we've had some people who share invoices. So they'll take the same quote and one or two people submitting the same exact quote. And it makes no sense. And then it's things that need to be credible and it needs to make sense. You can't say to me that you building a 20 by 20 farmhouse, but when we work out with the square footages, the cost of the construction cost per square foot, it coming out to be $200, $300. Like it have to make sense. I hope that helps.
Good afternoon. Would the building of a land crab habitat specifically for hatching land crabs be accepted under this program? I think we kind of touched on that already, eh? We're not. That's a new one.
Are you if you're hatching land crabs for resale, then I would say yes. If you're hatching them for sanctuary, then no.
Thank you very much for the information. Great to have information for us who live in the out islands, i.e. not Exuma, Abaco, and Andros. Okay, I'm trying to download the PDF information handle, but it's not allowing to. That same information that's in this session is also on our website. When you select the Fish and Farm grant, it'll say download, and you can download it there. I missed the first session, and that would help me against my application approval. Would that be help against me with my application approval?
I guess it's being held again.
No, it won't be held. If you submit your application, it can still be given consideration. And somebody's telling the group that BAIC is located on Sunrise opposite Dr. Bethel's office by the skating rink. That's what I was trying to remember, the skating rink. Do fishermen and farmers licensed by Port Authority need a government license as well when applying? And I assume when they say government license, they're talking about a business license. I'm not sure. But you need to have your fishing or farming license and a valid business license. That's
right.
Just to be.
So it depends on what area you're in.
A whole lot of pertinent information will just be posted on site. This session is actually being recorded, similar to the session that was held last week. And they're both, the other session is already on our site, and this will also be posted on our site for you to go in and listen to if you wish to. Are farmers expected to obtain insurance for working houses or equipment? That's what the insurance question was about.
For farmhouses, for actual farmhouse, and it have to be a legitimate farmhouse for them to cover it.
Okay, we have some more questions in the chat again. What if you're trying to expand your business from the tourism market to the commercial market? I think you just need to make sure, specify what your intent is in your business plan that you're putting in along with your application, because there's two things. If you're already having success in the tourist market, and that will help you wanting to expand into the commercial market. But obviously, your expansion into the commercial market, as Garnell said, it has to make business sense. Again, if you was rejected, Mr. Marshall, you weren't rejected as far as we're aware, because we have not sent out any rejection letters as yet. How many classes do you need to take? Depending on whether it's fishing or farming, it's a different set of classes. And like I said, it's a total of about 8 hours of classes. How long does it take to get your farmer's license?
So it would depend on which I like. Grand Bahama and New Providence kind of gets there a bit quicker. So it would just depend. It depends on the next inspection date that's available. But if it goes over 10 days, Charmian Price at Bahamas.gov.bs.
What's your executive plan for commercial fishermen entail? Well, you should be telling something, one, about yourself, your experience in fishing. What is your target market? Who are you selling your product to? What's your plan for expansion? How are you going to use these funds to help your business sustain itself and grow? That's the kind of information that's being looked for in the executive summary area. Can I still edit my application even though it has already been submitted? Once it's submitted, it's submitted. And you had a very valid point there, because if you were allowed to go in and edit it, you're probably changing the whole dynamics of the application, and it would have to go back into the queue. If you want to update your quotes because you find new vendors or products not available, that becomes a discussion item once you get approved. And somebody supporting your idea for a crab sanctuary, Mr. Especially how the raccoons will soon bring Eleutherius crab population to extinct. Okay, interesting. Okay, I think on that, we're at 5:46. There are no outstanding questions in the chat or in the questions area. So we'd like to thank you all for taking the time. Good luck with your applications. Ms. Pelecanos, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add before we close.
No, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out, and hopefully that what we have said would have been helpful. It is the information that's on the website in terms of the brochure is very detailed. Every question that you could think to ask is on there. So take the time and go through it. And also there's the WhatsApp lines as well that SBDC has where you could send in your questions, and they are very responsive. So thank you once again for your time, and thank you for being a very participative audience.